Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Know the Faith, Defend the Faith. My name is William Hemsworth. It's great to be with you all again for today's episode. Happy to talk to my guest today. We're finally able to connect. That's a funny story in itself. But Juan Acosta, he's the founder of the Tabella app. So, Juan, how are you doing today?
Excellent. Really great to be here and to finally be able to meet you. I know we've rescheduled a few times, partly on my end, just a lot of circumstances, but really happy to be here and to be on your show and some of the guests that you've had on, actually all of them, but the ones that I've particularly watched that I've looked up to them for quite a while, like Steve Ray. And it's just fantastic and an honor to be able to meet you and be here and hopefully some people get to learn a little bit about us and what we're doing. And yeah, this is great.
Yeah, it's great to connect with you as well. I know we followed each other on Twitter for quite a while. So it's always great to talk with those people that, you tweet with and interact with online. So it's fun. Kind of narrows it down a little
Absolutely.
bit.
So much opportunities coming. I've found that on Twitter, particularly, I've been able to run into great people, even people that work on our team now. Our very first engineer, actually, I met through Twitter. And he's the head of engineering, and that's how we've developed a relationship. Even yesterday, I was speaking with John Shaw, who is a young YouTuber and prays the rosary on YouTube every day, and so really great connections that have come out of it. Really great to see.
That's great. So I guess before we get into Tabella, you have a very interesting story. Can you share your story with us a little bit?
Sure. I guess just from a personal, just for people that are just watching this, I was born in Venezuela. So I immigrated to the U.S. when I was about 9 years old with my family, mom, dad, and sister. So I would say we're a small family, and we came here to the U.S. without any other sort of family. So very similar to a lot of immigrant journeys, I would say, and unique in its very own ways too. I would say that coming to the U.S. It's one of the greatest things that have happened to me and my family. I see a lot of opportunity here, and my dad was an entrepreneur, and he taught me a lot there. And really, this is a place where you can thrive and you can have a lot of impact if you really put the work ethic behind it. And there's opportunity to take care of family, to take care of your communities, the country, and hopefully we can keep it that way. I know a lot of things are happening,
Right.
but anyway, that's I was born in Venezuela. Came here. We came here because my dad had a dream of just bringing us to the U.S. one day. Venezuela is in a very bad situation for the past like 20 years and probably a little over that. And we really didn't have much back then. We came from a very I don't want to say poor, but things were very, very tight in Venezuela, especially with the political situation. And my dad, so heroic, just said, we're going to get us to the United States one day. That's where we have to be. And he made that happen. So he got hired here. After a few years, he started a business of his own. Without knowing a single word of English, he built a pretty great business. It was a dubbing business where he translated soap operas and movies,
Oh,
and
wow.
that was my very first job too. So I'm in some soap operas in that play. I don't know where right now because it was so long ago, but my voice is there sometimes, and just great experience. And without a single word of English, he built a great business, over 60 people that all spoke English and he didn't. So I don't know how he did it. Obviously, it's all God's glory and
Sure.
His grace, and that was really great. It was a really amazing experience. And after some time, my dad got sick. He developed what's called myasthenia gravis, which affects the neural system and how it impacts the muscles or how it controls the muscles. And in that time, I learned quite a bit. He had to shut down his business. A lot of people, I would say, played him badly or took advantage of that situation. And I learned a lot about people there. And I think the thing I learned the most is how he behaved then and afterwards, right? No vengeance, just accepting and, taking care of us and moving forward. And he helped quite a lot of people even in that time in his own way. So I had to drop out of school. I was an aerospace engineering student, which I really loved. And thankfully, God really just works in mysterious ways, right? But thankfully, that wasn't the path. I was passionate about the industry or what I was studying, but looking at myself now, I would not be an engineer, working on one thing out of like a big like that. That was just not me. I think it was more of the entrepreneurial nature, which I learned from my dad quite a bit. And anyway, I dropped out of school, helped my family for quite some time. So at an early age, I would say I lived through things that perhaps people live a little bit later on in life, right? When they have their families. And but it was one of the best things that happened. And in that time, I would say, me, myself, I know this is a very Catholic channel. I'm Catholic. My family's Catholic. The faith has been an integral part of our life. As a young college student, or at that time, I had dropped out and started working in tons of jobs. I can go into that as to all the sorts of things I did back then. But, I grew apart from the faith a little bit as a young person. I think, just dumb me. I was somewhat resentful of, like, why is this happening to us? And, the normal questions we ask ourselves during times of suffering or right. challenges. And as a young person without, my faith background was solid because my parents, that's their core every single day. But in terms of just knowing exactly why I went to mass or, why I followed some of the things that we were doing, I wasn't really well read on it. And I grew apart. To be honest. And it's something that I look back at with a little bit of ashamed of myself of having been in that spot, right? But in that time, one thing I really did learn was that God was always there. His hand was working through other Catholics, particularly Catholics, in our communities that helped my parents tremendously, that helped me tremendously. And it was a long, if you want to call it a conversion journey, it took a few years for me to really just understand everything, but it was through a series of miracles, with my dad's health, with financial issues that all of a sudden, things that have no explanation, they would just vanish. And, big problems or challenges that just were not, they didn't have solutions or that we could think of solutions, just vanished all of a sudden. It was really amazing to see. And, there's no doubt in my mind that some of those things were actual miracles, especially when it comes to my immigration journey. I was very close to leaving the country at one point, like days away, and some marvelous things happened. And after that, I really started thinking, like, what am I doing? Like, I God's showing me all this love, and He's telling me, like, like, here it is, here's the proof. And that's kind of when I started leaning into it more on my own rather than just, because I grew up Catholic, etc. And
okay.
Yeah, I got a chance to work in California, as we were discussing earlier. I after a bunch of product management, and even I worked at a flower shop one time. I was a construction worker at one time. I built products for Latin America. So all over the place, some things with technology, some things with no technology. And, over time, I had the incredible privilege to work with a gentleman called Tim Draper, who's a very, very well-known venture capitalist. And he gave me the opportunity to lead his accelerator for young entrepreneurs. So I was there for 4 years, and I helped train some young people, hundreds of young people around the world in startups and creating businesses, and also investing in them. And what an incredible learning opportunity that was. And in there, when I became COO of Draper U, I started, going back to my roots, and I was connecting more into the faith more and just had more background. And I started thinking, wow, like, I look back in my life, specifically after that immigration, I would call it a miracle, honestly. After that, I started thinking, why am I not applying all my talents and what God has, given me and my skills to building something for him and for his kingdom? And that's really where it all started. And Tabella was a very old idea I had many, many years ago, probably when I was 16, and just wasn't ready to really go out there. And after that, I just said to Tim, I went to Rome for a trip, and that's really where I took the leap, where I said, okay, I'm going to go do this. I think that this is what God is somewhat calling me to, and obviously everything's a discernment process, right? As we continue going about life, and you always got to stay, your antenna has to be, well, I guess receiving the correct, or like you should be in tune, right, with that message, so that you don't stray. But it's a continued discernment process as to what am I here in this world for, and right now it's been this. Tabella is my mission, and I want to help bring the world closer to God in some way, and that's kind of how a little bit of my background. I know that was a long story, but that's a little bit about what's been there.
Well, sometimes we look back at our lives, we're like, how I was so dumb, like I wasted so much time, but God draws us straight with crooked lines sometimes. Yes. So that seems to be the case with you as well.
And honestly, I like, you always hear God's timing's the best timing. And, back then I probably wasn't ready to be, spiritually strong to approach such a mission, or to even realize the impact that we could have, or and just in personal things too. So and now I look back, and every single experience from things that I was so mad about. So I was studying aerospace engineering, and I leave school, and then all my friends were, graduating, etc. And here I found myself working, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, but it was just not my path. I was working a completely different thing. I was delivering flowers at one point, and now looking back then I was like, why is this, like, what's going on? But now I look back, and the learnings I had in those jobs have just been applied to this in ways that I think some other people may have not had, or those connections have been made now. And I'm like, wow, like God really did this for me back then so that I could learn those lessons and apply them now. And without those lessons, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. So it's been incredible.
Now, you were saying a moment ago that Tabella was an idea you had when you were about 16. So I guess maybe tell us a little bit about Tabella, and maybe what the name is, what the name means.
Oh, sure. So by the way, Tabella is the social app for Catholic communities. Like I mentioned, our mission is to bring the world closer to God. We do that through technology. I believe that our Catholic world has been very, very underserved by technology, by products built for our communities, right? There's over 1.3 billion Catholics around the world. And it's wild to me that one of the main methods of communicating is still the bulletin boards, right? Like that's how, right, our church is communicating with and how we communicate with each other. Like you have to put an announcement here if you want the community to know about something. So we've been completely underserved as a community by technology. I think part of that is just because of the secularization of the world. The world, in certain parts is becoming more and more secular. And again, it's that fight between, I think, good and evil. And we know who wins in the end. But so Tabella is a technology built for the Catholic community. So we have two basic things right now. We help people grow in the faith by aggregating and producing our own prayer content. So right now you can listen to the daily gospel. You can pray the rosary in Spanish, English, Latin, even Tagalog, which is spoken in the Philippines. So we have a lot of great content. A lot of great podcasts are on there, and it's going to continue to get better as we continue listening to our users. But really, one of the things that the meat of Tabella is all about community. So on Tabella, you can find every parish in the United States, mass times, confessions, basic information. But really, as churches start being onboarded, it's going to be the main communications method between those communities. So imagine you going to your parish and being able to speak with your parish community in a safe Catholic environment digitally, right? Whether it's sharing, a prayer request or sharing some scripture you found, and also for parishes to be able to communicate with their communities. So it's at the the focus of it is community for creating digital communities that already exist, in our analog world, right? Like you have Bible study groups and ministry groups. And when I looked at it, it was just so fragmented. People on Facebook Messenger for their little Bible study group, and people on WhatsApp for, women's retreat group. And then the parish sometimes just has the bulletin. So, we want to bring the Catholic world to one safe Catholic platform where they can grow in the faith and stay connected with the communities that are so important. And personally, with some of the challenges I described, that's really what how God acted and how he got us through a lot of things was through that Catholic community. So I look back at my life and I'm like, wow, it all makes sense why I'm building this on a personal level, and those lessons there. But that's what Tabella is. And yes, I had the idea long time ago. But I think with ideas, they have to mature. You have to mature as a person. We might not be ready for some things in the moment. And, God took me through an incredible experience. So from studying engineering and, aerospace engineering, I already had this idea a while back. And he said, nope, we're going to take you out of there. We're going to take you through these series of companies. You're going to build a product for this. You're going to learn growth hacking from this company. You're going to learn about even bulletin advertisers from this other company. You're going to build church websites here in your own business that I started once. And then it led me, and then I'm going to give you the experience of training, with the best technology people in the world in Silicon Valley and learning from that. And then I'm just going to bundle all of that up, and you're going to make something great for us. And that's what, it was the right timing at that moment. It started in 2020, by the way.
That was going to be my next question. Okay.
Yeah, which is incredible. That journey in itself is also 2020. Why would you start a thing, right? But it was then, and that was we've been very it's been good.
So 2020, how has it grown since then? I mean, it's been a year, but how's it grown so far?
So in 2020, that's when I started building the team, right? I had left my my previous position. And I wanted to focus fully. I didn't know exactly what the product would be. I didn't know what the team would be. I didn't know how we would have the resources for it. However, I knew that, we would get it done. And so I left my previous job, I would say toward the end, maybe April of 2020. That's when I started building a team. I had already started quite a bit, right? Like we had some mock-ups. I had some user interviews, like what is the product that we want to build? So, but then that's when I really focused on it. And a lot of 2020 was building our team. We've got an incredible team right now of 7 that are actively working on this mission. Finding the resources for it, which is, in 2020, investor pockets, right? They were very tight just because of the overall situation. So that was an incredible challenge, but oh my goodness, that was an incredible journey. We were able to raise a round during that time. And now that the world's opening back up, and building the product, of course. And now that the world's opening back up, this year is when we started putting things out, live. And we haven't really promoted it much because there's a lot of things that we want to tweak before we just actively start pushing. But people have started finding us. We have thousands of users that use us, and it's been incredible. I didn't want to launch per se, but because we needed it out there so that people could give us feedback and we could iterate, it's been fantastic. And we're just acting on that. So we get feedback from great Catholics all around the world, and we just start building features around it. And we're very focused on that community piece, which will be released in the next few weeks.
Well, I look forward to that. I mean, I'm looking at some of the things that you have on here. You mentioned you mentioned the prayers on there, the Gospel of the Day, the Rosary in Latin, Tagalog. Look at the podcast. I mean, there's Ask Father Josh, Catholic Answers Live is on there. Fire, Catholic Answers Focus, the Catholic Man Show, Father Mike's Bible in a Year podcast. You have a lot of great stuff there. Kind of one-stop shop, really, where if you want to grow in your faith, everything is right there.
That's really, and right now it's basic will, but people are just, that's what they told us they wanted. So we've just been following that. And, over time, obviously there's so much great Catholic content, but what I said, it's everything's fragmented, right? Like everything's out there. And the thing is that as a Catholic, you're on social media, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, and you might find some Catholic stuff, but we're also targeted with non-Catholic things that sometimes are deceived or deceive us as like being Catholic or being. So we have to be very careful, right, into how we aggregate content. And over time, we'll get better at that. And it will be that one-stop shop where Tabella will be the product that every Catholic opens every day to pray, to read the scripture or listen to the gospel, to listen to some homilies that perhaps some priests around the world have recorded, which already happens in WhatsApp, like especially in Latin America. So many priests like just put their like a homily or just like a nice message every single morning, and hundreds of people just listen there. But my main goal also is to bring people back to Mass. That's why we have all the churches on there. We want the churches to adopt it, parishes to adopt it, and be able to send notifications at an instant. I mentioned to you before we hopped on the call that I was at a funeral recently. And in those times, so tragic, right? You have someone that passes, the family's trying to, organize everything, and they want their community to come to the Mass, and it's so hard to notify everybody. And I just lived it again, and this is something I've seen for a while. But what if that priest or church team could have just sent the notification to their entire community, like this just happened, let's come together, and it would have been fantastic. So we know that we're building a very powerful tool. And by the way, it's free for parishes and for all of us, for Catholics. We don't charge we don't put your card on it, nothing. It's content that's free. It's, parishes that adopt the technology and can communicate with their communities. And we have other ways, obviously, of being sustainable, which we can explore here. But that was really my goal. And the church world is so outdated. Like if you look at a lot of the church technology per se, oh man, it is caught in 90s technology. So we wanted to make a beautiful product for the everyday Catholic, practicing Catholics. And obviously, I'm very open always to learning. And, if we're doing things that we could be doing better, I'd love to get those messages personally. Some people message me just on Instagram and Twitter, and we act on that. We're constantly listening. And I want to make sure we build the best product for Catholics, and that our mission comes to life. And I've started to see things that already tell me that it's happening. Some incredible stories, and I'm happy to go into, like, for example, one of my team members and how she came on board. But we get messages all the time of, wow, like we needed this, and they see the potential. Obviously, we're not there yet. So for whoever's listening, it's a basic product right now, but we're building it. We're building it with a lot of love, and I think we will make something really great for His kingdom.
You mentioned parishes a moment ago, and of course, in 2020, donations to parishes got hit hard. I don't think there's a priest out there who hasn't said that to me. But so as far as your product, I guess let's go into that. How are you sustainable? How are you supported to keep it going? Because it costs money to do it.
Oh, yeah, an incredible amount, right? That's why, first we needed an investor. So we've got some great venture funds that have supported us. And the people in those venture funds believe in this mission. That was one thing it's, even though it's early and like money was tight, I had to say no to several offers, right? Of like an investment for the company as to how to start the company. Not because they were bad people, et cetera, but because I'm looking at the future of, okay, I want to make sure that we never stray from that, right? Like you see some of the big tech players and how they suppress, for example, the Christian message. And, we see that all around. So I wanted to build this with people that really believed in us, that put their trust in our team and that we can make the right decisions along the way. But yeah, so first of all, an investment that came in from several investors, Catholics from even all over the world, from Silicon Valley and Latin America, and here in the U.S. It's been awesome, even in the Philippines. But how do we, sustain? How do we build a business? The reason I built this, and I've been asked this question quite a lot: why as a business? Why not as a nonprofit? And in my experience, and this is not with everything, but just in my experience with training entrepreneurs, I believe that the system we have to create the most amount of impact is through entrepreneurship, through people taking a big leap, putting a lot of risk and effort on the table, and being able to grow something big. Now, once it's big, like the decisions you take really define if it was for good or for bad, right? But I think entrepreneurship is the tool that's gotten, all the countries, right, out of poverty, right? Or if you've seen, poverty rates drop over time, it's usually attached to business owners, right? Like people that created businesses and hired other people. So I wanted to make a very sustainable engine that could live through time, whether I'm here personally or not. I wanted it to be a thing that continued, right? And to do that, you have to build it as a company, as that there's a business model behind it. If you would have gone, let's say, the nonprofit route or through donations, what tends to happen a lot is you find a donation, you build something, and then donations just fall off, right? Like you constantly just have to do that. Instead, if you build a sustainable business with good values behind it, it could sustain itself, right? And it could grow even more, and it could get that mission or the impact we want to have into the hands of even more people. So how do we sustain ourselves? Very different ways. We've got, as you probably know, your parish bulletin. This is actually sponsored per se by some people in the community, right? Like advertisers in the community, your local plumber, your local restaurant owner, and they want to be here because they want to give this is technology, right? Paper to the people so that the parishes can communicate, communities can communicate. We adopt a very similar model right now, and it won't be for some time, of just people within the community that want to say, hey, I am a Catholic business owner. I am here. I sponsor this technology thanks to me advertising on here into these communities. We're able to have all of this for free for Catholics, for parishes. So I think it's a really great model that's existed for a very long time. That's one of them, right? And over time, we'll listen, we'll adapt. There's several business models that could be explored, but that's one that's worked very well, that is valuable to the Catholics in the community, right? When I started researching as to what business model to follow, one of the things that always kept coming up in these interviews is, hey, I'd rather do business with Bob, who I see on Sunday, right? Like the plumber Bob, who's on Sunday with me at Mass, and I know him and I know his family. Mm-hmm. Like I'd rather do, when something breaks in my house, I'd rather hire him than go out and just find someone else. Like, why not help our community? So that's part of the impetus there. So we believe that's very valuable for small businesses. And I grew up in very small businesses too, and I know the struggles there as to how to find or how to market yourself, et cetera, and what better way to do it within the community that you care most about.
Great. So again, the app is Tabella. Now, for a few moments, let's talk about your podcast that you started recently, The Life of a Priest, which is also available on Tabella.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your podcast and how you got that idea to start that.
Sure. Right now, we only have a few episodes, but we've got so many recorded now because we got great feedback from that, and just priests that wanted to be on it. And my main goal with that was a lot of us, we look when we go to our parishes, especially younger Catholics or people that are maybe not as, connected to the parish, right? And servicing, but that right now they just keep coming to Mass. Maybe they're a little bit disconnected, which is part of what, the problem that we're solving. We want to connect. We want to, if someone comes to Mass, we want to just bring them into the faith fully. And so anyway, we look at priests sometimes as, or at least this is what I used to look at when I was young and didn't know much. It's, oh, these people that perhaps are there and they're there for us, but like they have lives, they have incredible heroic journeys, to answer God's call for the priesthood. That is not a very easy thing, right? To even be able to hear, what God wants you to do with his life, that's not easy sometimes. And all of them, right, have taken incredible leaps of faith and answered God's call. So I wanted to explore those lives. So it's not about, hey, like, what do you do in your current life as a priest? It's really the life of a priest, like how they got to the priesthood, their families, like the mom and dad that raised them, right? It's so important. Like for me, that's been a huge part of my life. My mom, my dad, and my sister. That's really why I've been able to do the things that I'm doing. So I wanted to explore that and learn from the life of priests and even in those few episodes that we have there, some incredible wisdom of just life circumstances that they had to get through, and such as the death of a parent, in the midst of discerning God's call to the priesthood. And it's like, do I go take care of my family? Do I continue in the seminary? And so incredible challenges that I think we can all relate to, lay people or even other like we can relate to and learn from. So I wanted to highlight that. So it's been amazing to be able to interview priests from all around. And we've got so many, now that you mentioned it, I really have to get to editing, because it's more of a, I do that on the weekends. Like it's not really part of Tabella or what I do on a day-to-day, but it's almost like a hobby that I want to continue.
Sure.
And I think it's very important. So it's been good.
Great. Well, Juan, thanks for coming on and talking about Tabella and your podcast briefly. Where can our listeners get a hold of you, learn more about Tabella, and spread the news about it?
Yeah, well, yeah. So we're very out there. So our website's just jointabella.com. You can find us on the App Store. You can find us on the Google Play Store, and soon on the web. So we won't even need an actual app for people that perhaps don't have smartphones. But yeah, you can find us by just typing in Tabella or Tabella Catholic app on your app stores. Download it, please. Please leave us a good review. We're building what we think is going to be the best Catholic product, and we're building it with a lot of love, and we welcome that feedback. If you want to message me personally, I'm very out there, like on my Twitter, all my social handles go under my initials. So the THE, which is just the word the, and then JCAD, JCAD. So the JCAD, that's all my social media profiles. In fact, that's how one of my team members, our head of community, she kept on giving me feedback, just personally. And I just said, wow, like this person really cares, very experienced. And we just said, hey, why don't you come on board and work with us? But anyway, that's how you could reach us. That's how you could download the app. And please, I welcome, like, I really want to build the best product for you. And, we want to achieve the mission of helping at least some people look toward God more. And whether that's technology, maybe we can even get younger people that, hey, perhaps they're not going to mass or they're not super connected to our faith, but that this could be almost like an entry point to just bring them to the parishes, to bring them to a study group, to bring them to a men's group. So it's a fully Catholic platform, and we want to make sure that we serve the community. So I welcome all of that personally or to my email, etc.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on. It was fun connecting with you and talking with you. And everyone, check out the app. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's great stuff on there. So, Juan, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Will. And thanks to everybody out there. Just have a blessed day and continue praying. We need a lot of prayer in the world right now. And just keep strong in that. It's beautiful what we have. And sometimes the outside world doesn't see like what we see as Catholics, and oh man, it is so beautiful. So many people are missing out on an incredible beauty that we have in our faith. So continue strong there.
Yeah, amen. Definitely. All right. God bless, Juan.
All right. Well, bye-bye.